Are these leaks serious threats to our national security, and is the Department of Justice taking them with the appropriate degree of seriousness in investigating and ultimately going to prosecute them to the fullest extent of the law?
Thank you, Senator Cotton. We have had one successful case very recently in Georgia. That person has been denied bail, I believe, and is being held in custody. But some of these leaks, as you well know, are extraordinarily damaging to the United States security. And we have got to restore a regular order principle. We cannot have persons in our intelligence agencies, our investigative agencies, or in Congress leaking sensitive matters.
All right, that was the Attorney General, Jeff Sessions, earlier today, stressing just how dangerous, how damaging the leaks are, the selective leaks out of Washington for the security of this country. We continue now with former Speaker of the House, Newt Gingrich. By the way, his brand new book out. It is in bookstores everywhere as of tonight, and, of course, on Amazon.com, Hannity.com, Understanding Trump. You know, Mr. President, I think about what you just heard there, and the president's attorney mentioned that this week, the selective leaks to damage the president. To me, if the Obama holdovers aren't removed now, if the deep state, those that have been leaking, aren't dealt with and prosecuted now, and the attorney general mentioned just one prosecution, but there are others, and I think at a much higher level. To me, they got a minnow, and they really need to get the great whites. I don't think this ever ends for the president, and he doesn't get the. Well, I'm glad I can make you. I'm glad I can make you laugh. You like a very colorful analogy. Well, no, but if we don't get these top people, it's dangerous.
Look, but let me be clear. This is not about the president or getting the president. I agree with General Kelly, the Secretary of Homeland Security, who said about a week ago, many of these verge on treason. I mean, this is about the survival and the safety of the United States of America and the people of the United States. I don't care if you're pro-Trump or you're anti-Trump. There is no excuse for people taking on themselves the right to take secrets and release them. And candidly, there's no excuse for the news media picking them up and printing them. We've gotten into this entire cycle of, I think, unpatriotic behavior in which people are utterly irresponsible. And I think they should be prosecuted. I think it should be aggressive and vigorous. And I frankly think, for example, everybody in the White House should have to go through a session on what the secrecy laws are. I think all new political appointees should have to go through a session on what the secrecy laws are and what the consequences will be if you violate them.
You know, we know crimes were committed. One was committed against General Flynn in a violation of the Espionage Act. We know these leaks, with all of this raw intelligence, they're all illegal acts. And yes. I'm looking at Robert Mueller, and I see similarities to Patrick Fitzgerald, who knew on day one it was Richard Armitage. What did that go on for 3 years? Here Mueller knows today there's no obstruction. Here he knows today the president was not involved in collusion. Here he knows today that he wasn't being investigated. And he's hiring all of these Obama, Clinton supporters, donors, and even Clinton's attorney to go after the president. This is bad.
And remember who appoints Fitzpatrick. It's James Comey, who at that time was an assistant attorney general. And he knows when he does it. He knows that Richard Armitage of the State Department was the leak. He knows that none of it was illegal. There was no crime involved. And he appoints Fitzpatrick anyway. Fitzpatrick then says to Armitage, be quiet. And he goes after Dick Cheney's chief of staff, Scooter Libby, because what he wants to do is coerce Libby into turning on the vice president. And Libby, who's an honorable man, refuses to do so. That's why I worry about the team that Mueller's assembling. I don't think they're going to get Trump, but I think they're going to get other people, because when you're involved in this kind of criminal investigation, people who have the power of the government can set you up for all sorts of secondary charges and can ruin your life and can bankrupt you hiring lawyers. And I think this is a bad deal.
This is a bad deal. I think there's great danger here. There's also investigative creep, as we call it. He starts out investigating one thing. It goes on for 3 years. He ends up with somebody falling into a perjury trap because they didn't remember. They made a mistake. Nobody gets to revise and extend their remarks, if you will. So the question is, what do Republicans do now, knowing there's no obstruction, knowing there's no collusion? Shouldn't this be shut down?
Look, I think the two intelligence committees have an easy task. You bring in Mueller, and you say to him, How often did you talk with Comey? How often did you swap information with Comey? Did you review Comey's testimony before he gave it? How many of Comey's various memos did you get out of regular order? I mean, I think you start with this whole question. I was initially in favor of Mueller, and given his past record, I tweeted favorable things. But the minute Comey explained with enormous arrogance that he had deliberately leaked a memo for the purpose of forcing a special counsel who just happens to be his close friend, from that minute on, I thought the fix is in and this is really sick.